Thanks for joining me for Soul Ascension Insights. My name is Dave and I'm your host. In episode number 15, we reviewed the start of the military-industrial complex and its growth into our current secret government. In episode 16, we spoke about the greed aspect of suppressing new technologies. And in this episode, we'll examine if our secret government executed a coup d'etat to gain power and how they use fear and coercion to hold on to power. So lock the doors and windows and turn on the security system as we start episode number 17, titled Our Secret Government, Part 3. Although the term conspiracy theory had been around for a number of years, the term was weaponized by the CIA after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. When the official government explanation they called the Warren Commission report began falling apart, the CIA circulated a memo, document 1035-960, recommending strategies for countering critics of the Warren report. In the memo, the agency suggests labeling such claims as conspiracy theories to discredit them. It was during this period that conspiracy theory began to take on its current negative connotations, implying irrationality or paranoia. Over time, the term has evolved to describe fringe theories not supported by mainstream evidence. Step 1 in the playbook of fear: marginalize your enemies by calling them crazy. Now let me stop here and point out that we used to consider any country overthrown by a coup d'etat to be illegitimate. I believe that President Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy were assassinated by factions of our government, which means that our current government is illegitimate. Dr. Stephen Greer has amassed the largest documentary and first-hand witness testimony that sheds a bright light on what our secret government is up to. And since presidents, senators, congressmen, secretaries of defense, and some CIA directors are deemed unworthy of a full briefing, they have to call in a civilian, Dr. Greer, to give them a fuller idea of the depth of black budget programs and secret bases. Certainly a sad state of affairs. Anyway, Dr. Greer tells a story about a meal he had with a big fundraiser for President Clinton. During the meal, this fellow says, quote, "The president and his team are really very supportive of your disclosure agenda you're pursuing," end quote. Dr. Greer told the staffer that he can only reach a very small audience compared to the executive office and asked if the president would be willing to make a public statement. Without missing a beat, the staffer said Clinton and his team, quote, "were convinced that if he pushed the UFO issue, he'd wind up like Jack Kennedy and would be subject to TWEP, termination with extreme prejudice," end quote. Our secret government has a lot of blood on its hands. In episode 7, we spoke about the fact that we don't have an independent media. The CIA's Project Mockingbird pays editors and journalists so they can control the narrative. Yet another coup d'etat prerequisite: control the media through bribes and coercion. Let's drive this point home with these two quotes. Quote, "The CIA owns everyone of any significance in the major media," end quote. William Colby, former CIA director, who, by the way, died under mysterious circumstances. And one more quote. Quote, "The business of the journalist is to destroy the truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fawn at the feet of Mammon, and to sell his country and his race for his daily bread. You know it, and I know it, and what's folly is toasting an independent media. We are the tools and vassals of the rich men behind the scenes. We are the jumping jacks. They pull the strings and we dance. Our talents, our possibilities, and our lives are all the property of other men. We are intellectual prostitutes, end quote. John Swinton, former managing editor of the New York Times. The next step in consolidating control is to put corporations in charge of the federal regulatory agencies created to monitor and regulate those businesses. It's called corporate capture, and you've got to admit, it's a brilliant idea. If you go to ChatGPT and ask for examples of corporate capture, you'll find a long, sad list. Corporate capture refers to the undue influence that corporations exert over public institutions, regulatory bodies, or governments, often to further their own interests at the expense of the public good. There is no better example of this than the Food and Drug Administration's complicit behavior in the U.S. opioid crisis, allowing Big Pharma to pump millions of highly addictive OxyContin pills into small rural communities, while turning a blind eye to the pain clinics and corrupt doctors that popped up everywhere to illegally peddle this poison that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans by overdose over the past decade. A perfect example of our government no longer working or caring for its people. No federal agency or university research program is free from the undue influence of corporate capture. So now that the corporation part of the military-industrial complex are free to do as they please, it's time to feed the military machine with endless wars. Check out a YouTube titled, quote, General Wesley Clark, the U.S. will attack 7 countries in 5 years, end quote. Sometime after the 2001 terrorist attacks, retired General Wesley Clark was in the Pentagon, and an officer for the Joint Chiefs of Staff called him into his office and showed him a memo stating that the U.S. was going to invade Iraq. General Clark asked why would we do that, and the officer said he did not know. Months later, the U.S. did attack Afghanistan, which General Clark supported. 6 months later, General Clark visited the same office in the Pentagon and asked if we were still going to invade Iraq. The officer told him, "Oh, it's much worse than that." He had a memo from the Secretary of Defense that said, quote, "We are going to attack and destroy the governments of 7 countries in 5 years. We'll start with Iraq, then attack Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran." Clark asked the officer, "Why would we do that?" The officer answered, "I have no idea." General Clark used the term policy coup to describe the infiltration and undue influence of this pro-war agenda throughout the Defense Department. Remember the whole Tom DeLonge, Luis Elizondo to the Stars Academy stuff in 2017? Where they released grainy video images of Navy jets chasing UFOs near aircraft carrier training ranges on the East and West coasts? All of it meant to portray these incursions into restricted airspace as a national security concern. And the report from the Defense Department a year or so later that stated, UFOs are real, but we have no idea what they are or where they're from. All of it horse hockey. The so-called Tic Tac craft are made by Lockheed Skunk Works, and the Triangle craft is made by TRW. All the UFOs involved were alien reproduction vehicles or homemade spacecraft that had human secret space program pilots in them. But it was important to plant that seed that UFOs and the aliens that pilot them are a threat. One of the Aegis destroyers was responsible to record and store all the radar, visual, and telemetry data from one of those training area encounters. The next morning, a Navy helicopter landed with 2 civilians in suits who presented orders, allowing them to take all hard drives and any other electronic and photo evidence of the encounter. Certainly not the first time this has happened. Dr. Carol Rosen was the manager of Fairchild Industries when she met and started working with the famous Operation Paperclip Nazi, Wernher von Braun, who was dying of cancer. Quote, "What was most interesting to me was the scare tactic strategy he said was being used to manipulate the decision makers and the public, and that those implementing these scare tactics were the real enemy," end quote. Von Braun talked about using these scare tactics to get funding for putting weapons in space. The first scare tactic was that the Soviets had killer satellites and we had to do the same. The Russians had no weapons in space. Von Braun said the next enemy would be terrorists and the threat from rogue states. After that, the next scare tactic would be an asteroid strike, once again reinforcing the need for space-based weapons. And the last scare tactic would be the alien threat. Von Braun told her, quote, "Remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We are going to have to develop a whole new generation of weapons to protect us from aliens, and all of it is a lie," end quote. We know that our secret government has alien reproduction vehicles. We must also be mindful of a false flag event. This would be where they use these home-built ARVs to attack one of our fighter jets or Navy ships or isolated base and blame it on the alien menace, which would spur even more fear in military spending. Since the ETs that visit Earth are possibly 1,000,000 years more advanced than us, it's logical to assume that if they wanted us gone, it would have happened already. Interstellar aliens are not the problem. It's our illegal, corrupt, secret government that is the problem. Of course, corporate capture extends to the U.S. Patent and Copyright Office as a further level of control. If you invent a zero-point or over-unity device, or a car engine that runs on hydrogen extracted from water, it would be flagged by the Patent Office and you would get a visit from our secret government. That's what happened to Stan Meyer. He and his brother Steve developed circuitry where you could put an electrode in water and at a certain voltage extract hydrogen and oxygen. To prove it worked, the Meyer boys retrofitted the gasoline engine of a dune buggy to use water turned into hydrogen for fuel, and word quickly spread. Stan claimed he received death threats from Big Oil and that he turned down our secret government's multi-million-dollar buyout offer. Enter the CIA, who claimed they wanted to hire Stan to retrofit a Learjet. Stan was nervous, rightfully so, and insisted on meeting in a public place, a local Cracker Barrel restaurant, for lunch. Stan took one sip of his beverage, grabbed his throat, and rasped, "I've been poisoned." He ran out to the parking lot, collapsed, and died. It's a pattern that's repeated itself throughout our recent history. Every scientist or inventor who has figured out how to create a true over-unity device or invention that threatens the oil, gas, coal cartel has either been bought out, shut down, or killed by the powers that be. The U.S. Patent Office currently has over 5,000 inventions under a national security seal. In many of these cases, along with seizing the patent, they will steal all your prototypes, equipment, and research notes, leaving you with a warning to never reproduce your research, or you will face dire consequences. Another example of how our corrupt secret government uses fear and intimidation to control the people they are sworn to protect. The Stan Meyer story is controversial, but here is what Elon Musk said about his attempt to replicate Stan's engine, quote, "The government is not allowing us to continue our research and took our prototype," end quote. So let's wrap this up. On the one side, you have the appearance of a representative democracy with its 3 branches of government and elections every few years to make it appear that we have a functioning government. In reality, the true government power rests with a secret, illegal, fascist kleptocracy who uses government power and intimidation to enrich themselves and steal resources from the American people. Let me also thank Dr. Stephen Greer and his team for leading the way in exposing our secret government. Members of Dr. Greer's team have been assassinated over the years, and I believe he would not be with us except for an anonymous donor who pays for Dr. Greer's executive-level security. Keep up the fight, Dr. Greer, and thank you for your service to our people. Thanks for joining me for Soul Ascension Insights. I sincerely appreciate your time. In the next episode, I'll talk about how we the people can rise above the kleptocracy and take our government back. As always, I'll leave a book and media list below for those who wish to explore this subject further. Thanks again, and I'll be back with more episodes.